Hey, what's up, guys? I just wanted to talk a little bit about the state of gaming in general, and an article that just came out recently on GameSpot. So I think it's called "The Point: Destiny Reviews and Aging Among Gamers," and how they were discussing how games have changed through the years. And I agreed with a lot of the article. It was a very well written article, but there is something that struck me a little odd about the article, and also what a lot of people have been commenting on in reference to Destiny, the way it's been received, the reviews, and what what struck me as odd is there is a very defensive backlash to the negative reviews and opinions of people who actually played the game. And I never understood why people feel the need to defend a developer. If if people don't like a game, they don't like it. Those of you who enjoy the game, you could still play the game. Somebody saying, if I say the game sucks, how does that stop you from enjoying the game? Why? Maybe you should spend less time worrying about these negative reviews. If you enjoyed the game, just play it. There's a lot of people that bought the game, so there's plenty of people to play with online. Nothing anybody says about the game should affect you in any way. Why do you feel the need to defend a publisher or a developer? They're the ones that should worry about defending their product. If there's a backlash and people are saying this game sucks, it's overrated, that's their opinion. And if a lot of people are saying it, there has to be taken seriously. You can't just dismiss it and call these people idiots. If you enjoy the game, by all means, keep playing it, enjoy it. But in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, and a lot of the negative reviews, as they've said, Destiny is overrated. It's repetitive. It's really little more than just a typical first-person shooter of the type we've seen for the past 10 years. The only positives that come from this game that you could say, okay, stands out a little bit above the rest, the graphics. It's a beautiful looking game. And the mechanics of the gameplay. You know, it's smooth, it feels right, the shooting mechanics and the way you move around. But other than that, I really have nothing positive to say about this game. At least, I'm not saying it's a terrible game, but it's certainly nowhere near what it was hyped up to be. And why people continue to come out and get upset with people for saying that and feel that need, that obligation as a consumer to defend Bungie, to defend these developers of these games that overhype their games. Why do you feel that need to do that? Do you work for these people? Does it stop you from enjoying the game? And if it does, then you should be looking in the mirror and asking yourself why. Let them worry about defending their product. If you hype up something beyond reality and people eventually catch on to that and then there's a backlash, well, whose fault is that? That's your fault. These developers have been getting away with hyping and overhyping their products. And then when it comes out, people are like, whoa, it's not what they said it was going to be. I understand marketing, you know, but there's a difference between marketing and overhyping something to the point where it's almost, I would say, false advertisement. I've heard things about from the developers about this being a vastly open world that you can explore. That's a big load of bullshit. And if you think you could get away with saying that and then just sweep it under the rug when people are wondering why this beautiful landscape, that's all it is. It's a background centerpiece that you can look at from a distance, but can you go there with complete freedom and roam it and explore it? No. People die when they actually reach a point, an invisible point, where suddenly you just fall over this invisible cliff and you die. So it's a very linear game, which is not what Bungie or anybody associated with the developer was touting this game that it was going to be. That's a big, big, big overhype and lie. So you think people aren't going to call bullshit on that or be upset that you can't really free roam that way? Then you're an idiot. And you shouldn't be surprised that there's such a backlash. Then there's the repetitive first person shooter narrative of this game. Is it really all that special? Oh, they touted this game as being almost revolutionary. It was going to change everything. That's the way they made it sound. And you don't always have to label everything word by word. It's pretty clear that that's the way they were marketing this game. They said this is going to be a 10-year experience. I don't really see how this game is going to be a 10-year experience. In 2 years, this game is going to be something else will come along. Hopefully. I don't see people playing this game for 10 years. And I don't see anything special about it. It's very boring, repetitive, and has absolutely no story mode to speak of. It is garbage. It doesn't make sense. It's just comical. And they talked about a $500 million budget. Now, I don't know how much of that they actually spent on the game, but that $500 million budget pops up a lot. And when I look at the game, I don't see half a billion dollars really in resources. I don't see that. Rockstar spent half that on Grand Theft Auto 5, and Grand Theft Auto 5 is 1,000 times better than this game, in my opinion. Just in content, story mode, everything you can do, the freedom, uh, whether you love it or hate it, it's packed with content, and they're still throwing more stuff out there. And they didn't spend half what Bungie reportedly spent on Destiny. Now, the other things about the article that they start talking about, gamers getting older and stuff like that. This art, it's not just this article, but there's a growing sentiment amongst gamers who defend games like Destiny that it's the consumer's fault or almost inability to understand what these games are. The game is over our head. It's such a genius quality product that we just don't get it. And I call bullshit on that. A product is either good or it's not. If people don't like it, there's a reason. You can't just blame the consumer and say, well, he just didn't get it. No, we got it. It's a boring, dull, repetitive first-person shooter. There's a dozen other games you can buy that pretty much give you the same thing this game does. So that's what it is. Don't try to tell me it's something more. Now, you have all these games now in the past, I would say the past 10 years. I'm 44 years old, and I remember the Atari 2600. I remember the evolution of games. And maybe there's a lot of young gamers today who don't understand or never experienced the greatness of these older games and why they were so great. So they don't know any better. This is, to them, this is the pinnacle. This is the way games are supposed to be. What's your fucking problem? That's the mentality. But what they're trying to do now is sort of flip that around and be like, well, no, it's you older guys. You just don't want to change. You don't want to evolve. No, I'm okay with evolution. I want to see improvements to games, but there are some things that you don't fuck with. A winning formula for a video game. Video game is a form of entertainment just like movies are or anything else. Movies aren't going anywhere. Movies are either good or they're not. Is the story interesting? Are the characters interesting? That's what matters with a movie. You could put all the explosions you want in it. You could kill all the people you want in it. Doesn't make it a good movie. Doesn't make it a good video game. And the trends that I've seen as far as video games and the way they've changed, to me, they've changed for the worse. They do look better, and I'm all for technology and improving things, but they've focused more now on online multiplayer, and they just pushing further and further away from offline story modes where single player campaigns where you can enjoy this game by yourself. You can't, we're starting to see a trend where you're not no longer going to be able to do that. You're going to be forced to play online with people whether you want to or not. And the beauty of these older games, aside from the single player ability to just enjoy this game by yourself, you don't have to be online, is the focus on a story, characters, and building a world that is interesting, that you can explore freely. I'm going to bring up a couple of examples of games that nailed all of these aspects that are old. Some of you may have not played them, some of you may remember them, but games like Siphon Filter, the original Tomb Raiders, the first few, um, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, these games were great. You were immersed. You almost forgot you were playing a game. You became part of the story. The stories were interesting. They would be creepy and scary. They had perfect atmosphere. Um, it wasn't nonstop explosions and blood and gore. It was a perfect balance of everything. Then you had also elements of stealth, which is almost a lost art. And people forget, it's interesting to just take a slow down and take in what the game has to offer instead of ramming through, okay, like a cannonball and just shoot everything in sight, blow everything up, and just nonstop repetitive. That stuff becomes watered down. It's not as interesting anymore. It's not as special. You have to blend other things in there that also slow the game down and allow you to take in other things so that when there is action, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. So you had games like Siphon Filter, Resident Evil, these old classic games, Tomb Raider. I remember spending countless hours just taking in the environment. Now, if you played this game today, yes, they're very dated. They're almost laughable to look at because the graphics don't compare. But if you just look beyond that, the way they were crafted, the way that the developers thought out the experience was meant to immerse you, and it did. And these games were fun. They were great. Um, and you don't see that as much anymore. Yes, there are still some great games out there. I'm not hammering all modern games, but as a whole, collectively, there's a problem, and there is a direction that gaming is headed that's not for the better. And people, I think, are starting to understand that. And that's why Destiny, for me, may be the linchpin that really makes people stop and say, wait a minute, pump the fucking brakes, slow down with this shit. This is a fucking game that I cannot play by myself offline. I'm sort of always forced to have do things with other people. It's very repetitive. I've been doing this kind of shit since fucking Halo. the whole grinding thing and stuff like that. I mean, eventually people are gonna say, hey, you're just selling me the same shit with a different coat of paint on it, and people catch on to that. And now you're gonna see articles that come out, or people that come out and start telling you, well, gamers are getting older now. They just don't appreciate this 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 evolution. It's it's above their heads. They don't get it. And now we have to explain to you why you're supposed to be enjoying this product that you're not enjoying. And if you don't enjoy it, it's your own fucking fault. That's the mentality that's coming, and you see it in these articles. I don't trust all these articles, as well written as they may be, and they're even loaded with lots of wonderful facts that I agree with. But when you look at the overall theme, you got to stop and think. First of all, a lot of these major reviewers, we know by now, or we've heard, that a lot of these guys get paid by these publishers or these developers to give games favorable reviews. And could I envision maybe Bungie or somebody saying, "Hey, look, man, we're getting killed with fucking bad publicity right now. You need to say something." And I could imagine a reviewer, not naming names, I could see them starting to put out articles like saying, "Hey, you know, gaming is changing, and there's a lot of gamers out there who don't get it." There's where it's sort of trying to shift the blame. So keep your eyes open for that. The bottom line is, if you have to make excuses for why a game is getting bad reviews, if there, it's just a bad game. There's a lot of people that love it, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion. And some people just happen to love this type of game. The same old first-person shooters of doing the same things over and over and grinding, a lot of people love it. But someday they're going to get tired of it too. Those people right now that are complaining, they're just the first ones who are starting to get it. They're like, hey, I want, you're going to sell me these games. I'm spending my fucking money. I'm not getting as much content as I used to get. We used to get a lot more content, much longer story mode campaigns, a lot larger uh, levels. I remember games that took much longer to finish, and you could play them again. Now you go through a campaign and you're done. That game is either collecting dust or you play online, and it's doing pretty much the same player versus player type matches and stuff like that. And some of it is fun. Some games do this right and really don't need to add anything more. For example, Max Payne 3, very underrated game. I love all of Rockstar's games, by the way. So I want to make it clear that there are still very good developers out there who get it, who understand we have to offer people more. We don't want to lose that that winning formula of they understand stories are important, characters development is important, making the environment that you play in interesting. That's all important. Developers like Rockstar or the guys that made Uncharted, Naughty Dog. There's still some developers out there who really put quality into their games. So I love those games. Red Dead Redemption, greatest game ever made, my opinion. Grand Theft Auto, all of them. I love them all. And you could nitpick little things here and there. Nobody's perfect, but I love all these games. They're vast, open worlds. You can spend hours just taking in the little details. There's plenty to do. The replay value of these games are very high. Okay? Say what you will about Grand Theft Auto Online. Some people hate it, some people love it. But a lot of people are still playing it a year later. They're still adding new content. I got nothing bad to say about Rockstar. They're not perfect. And I could see down the line, you know what, these people are going to start getting carried away, but I don't like, this is why I don't like the direction that a lot of developers are taking with games like Destiny and stuff like this. Same old repetitive games. They're not really giving you anything new. They're making it look a little better, more polished, and that's it. And they're paving the way for another problem that with modern gaming, one of my pet peeves is DLC. And they've already conditioned people to accept this as just the way of doing business. I know I'm gonna end up paying more money down the line for DLC that sort of adds something to the game. And there's a lot of good DLC, and there's a lot of terrible DLC. Doesn't really add anything special to the game. It's just a bunch of skins, weapons, uh, little add-on bullshit where they can milk people for more money. Things you shouldn't have to pay for. But then there are good, you know, entire chapters or new stories to be told through DLC. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with paying for things that are worth it, that are quality. Don't fucking charge me for garbage, for meaningless trinkets, gimmicks. And people fall for that stuff and they buy it. And it just gives these guys free license to do more and more of it. Another thing about online and the world of online that I don't like is the way these games are developed. Have now become lazier when it comes to quality control and testing. There used to be a time before the advent of patching through online services where once you released a game, you got what you got. So developers didn't have the luxury of just pushing a product out the door, taking your money and saying, "All right, we'll get to all the fucking problems later." You know, for the moment, you're gonna play the game, whatever fucked up glitches are in it, we'll fix it down the line when we get to it, if we get to it. And that's a pretty fucked up thing that's happened in recent years. And we've all grown accustomed to it. How many times have you seen someone say all games have bugs and glitches as an answer to why a game is so fucked up and full of bugs and glitches? Something wrong with that. And the developers and the publishers are winning that war. That was unheard of. What was once unheard of is now commonplace. Not a good thing. Back in the day, the testing and quality control had to be one of the most important aspects of video game development because once you released it, that's it. That's the game. And if you released a game that was fucked up, that was bad for you, for your reputation, there was no going back and fixing it. But while it's good to be able to fix things even after you release it, it's also bad because it makes developers lazy. Quality control has taken a back seat. It's not as important. And now people are stuck playing with sometimes game-breaking bugs and glitches, and with their fingers crossed, hoping, I hope they come up with a patch soon. These are the changes that have really gone on in gaming. So as much as evolution is a good thing, it's also a bad thing when you get rid of things that are are conducive to to having a quality product. Games, things like offline, career modes, story mode, storytelling and character development. This stuff is being more and more pushed aside for online. Everything is developed now with online is now becoming the online multiplayer aspect is the most important thing. I don't think that's a great thing. I think you got to have both. You still got to have focus and energy put into offline gaming. Believe it or not, some people don't have great internet connections, and they shouldn't be forced to have a product that they can't enjoy by themselves offline if they chose to. I don't I don't think that's a good thing. So people can keep defending these developers all they want to. They can make excuses all they want. But a game like Destiny is just one of many. that have been overblown, overhyped, and when they finally come out, people say, well, this is nothing like these people were claiming it was going to be. So then you have a backlash, and then you wonder why there's a backlash. Well, there's only one person to blame, one set of people to blame for that: publishers and developers. They want to market these games, but they go overboard. They go too far. And the last thing I want to talk about, really quick, this trend of announcing projects, games, way too fucking early. Do we need to know that this particular game is in development a year, 2 years, 3 years ahead of the scheduled release date? Even my favorite developer, Rockstar, is guilty of this, which I hate. This is the thing I hate most about Rockstar, about all developers. Don't tell me about a game that it's not even going to be in my hands for years. Why? The only reason they do this is to appease shareholders. Do we need to know about it? Now we got to sit around, we're waiting, and then 2, 3 years go by and you finally get the game. Now you've been waiting so fucking long for it. No wonder the game never turns out to be as great as you were anticipating, because the build up. You can't build something up for years and then expect people to take it for what it is. Destiny, when they first announced it, that was a while back, and it was like, wow, this is gonna change gaming. Nothing revolutionary about it. It's just a typical first-person shooter. It's beautiful looking, but it's also like staring at a painting, a beautiful painting. It's nice to look at, but you can never go there. You could never fuck around in these areas that look beautiful from a distance. That's all I'm going to say about this subject at the moment. So I'd like to see your comments. And thanks for listening, and let me know what you think.